we ready?
Yes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Box to Box podcast. Today, we have a Ballon d'Or episode. The Ballon d'Or is just around the corner, and there's been a lot of debate about the list, the actual nominees, who should win it, why they should win it. And I think it's time that Waleed and I give our opinions on the 2023 Ballon d'Or. So, Waleed, first of all, thank you for joining me as always. And I want to know your opinions on the nominees for this Ballon d'Or for 2023.
Well, for starters, we were talking before we started recording that I think the nominee list is spot on. It's bang on this season. I don't think there's a player who doesn't deserve to be in this on this list. I think the majority of players had spectacular seasons, and like I told you as well before we started recording, looking at their statistics for majority of these players were surprising. Like looking back and seeing what they did was very nice to see. But before we get into the nominee list, I'll quickly touch upon the people who kind of missed out, and it's not a lot of players. It's just the three main players who people are talking about, and that's John Stones, Jack Grealish, and Marcus Rashford. Now, John Stones and Grealish, I think they should have been into the nominee list. They played with Man City obviously last year, the treble. They were spectacular, especially John Stones towards the end, playing in that pivot role next to Rodri and inverted right back role. I think he should have got in. I think the player who I'd probably substitute in is Nicolo Barella. I mean, okay, he had a decent season in Serie A with Inter Milan and went far in the Champions League and reached the Champions League final, but I think maybe John Stones or Jack Grealish should have deserved to go into that list. However, on the other hand, we have Marcus Rashford, who had the season of his life. I think he recorded 30 or 35 goals across all competitions, or maybe that's overall goal contributions. I'm not too sure. However, I feel the reason why he wasn't selected is because of his overall performances, not just because of his statistics, but outside of scoring or assisting throughout the game, he wouldn't really provide much input or energy certain times within a game, but it wasn't consistent. So yeah, I think those snubs or not, we shouldn't call them snubs really, but just the players who kind of missed out, who I think deserve to be in the Ballon
Could
d'Or
have been
list.
on the list. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I get you. I mean, I've always talked about how I'm not a fan of how Grealish parties after every single trophy that
Yeah.
City wins and all that. But
You're not
obviously,
alone. Everyone agrees.
but obviously to put all those jokes aside, he was very, very good last season, and he's been, compared to when he first arrived at City, I was a bit unsure. I was watching and I was like, I don't know, but then he's picked it up. Definitely, he's picked it up, and he's been
Yeah.
pivotal in,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess, in all the trophies that they've been winning. Now to talk about some of the notable names on the list, obviously we're going to get onto our top three in a moment, and we're going to get onto the debate of who should win it, but obviously some big names on the list. We have the likes of Kylian Mbappe, obviously, as always, should be on the list. Bukayo Saka, who was part of an incredible Arsenal team last season. Kevin De Bruyne, obviously tremendous for City. Obviously Harry Kane, always very good individually. And Karim Benzema, who was still very decent, but obviously didn't do as well compared to the year before where he was the one who won it. So
Yeah.
I want to talk
Yeah.
about Kevin De Bruyne, because Kevin De Bruyne, 31 assists overall.
It's actually
Absolutely
30.
incredible.
It's actually
Nah,
30
30.
assists.
I've got 31 on my screen right now. So,
It's actually 30 assists.
well, are
Whoever
you sure
whoever's
about that?
watching, whoever's watching, let's see who's correct, me or Muhammad. Let's
What?
see. My
Yeah,
from my research, it's 30 assists. And
I've got
from Muhammad,
49 matches played, 10 goals scored, and 31 assists. So I don't know, but
yeah, 10 goals scored and 30 assists given, that means 40 goal contributions across all competitions.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
I'm
know.
gonna trust Transfer Market. That's my trusted website. So we're gonna
Okay,
we're gonna stick with it.
okay,
But
fair enough.
nonetheless, 30 or 31, absolutely incredible. And obviously, let's state the obvious. He was pivotal in the amount of goals that Haaland scored.
Oh, amazing, amazing, yeah.
So obviously such a notable name. And then if we move over to Spain, we have players like Vinicius Jr. And I've got here again, we're gonna keep fighting about stats, but I've got 23 goals, 21 assists. So again, incredible numbers,
I
very
got
consistent.
I
No,
got
no, serious.
21. I got I got 21 goals and 19 assists.
Nah, you're underestimating every player here. I don't like
I'm
it.
not
Nah,
underestimating. That's what I found. Maybe I didn't calculate all the games because there was a lot of friendlies and a lot of club friendlies and international
yeah, maybe,
friendlies.
maybe, but
Friendlies.
yeah, yeah, no, maybe that is true, but I assume not because, for example, I've got here for Vinicius competing in La Liga, Champions League, Copa del Rey, Club World Cup, which maybe you haven't accounted
Ah,
for.
yeah, I didn't know. I don't think
Yeah,
I club. Yeah, the Club World Cup. Yeah, you're
So
right.
I guess
Okay.
this is just accounting for absolutely every single competition. So we
Yeah, yeah. I
statistics
forgot.
doesn't
I
really
forgot
matter.
they even played. Yeah, I forgot they even played the Club World Cup. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
You
Well,
won me on that one.
regardless, Vinicius again, tremendous performances, and obviously Benzema again alongside him in Real Madrid, 31 goals scored, an incredible
Yeah,
number, but it's not going to compare
yeah, of
to
course.
Haaland's
Yeah,
52, who's on the
and it's not
list
gonna
as well.
compare. It's not gonna compare to what he did last season as well. Like,
Yeah,
if for whoever is still watching us, if you look back to episode one, I remember telling you, when we talked about Madrid's like success that season when they won the Champions League and the league, I said that next season for Benzema, I think we should give him a pass. Like we shouldn't expect the numbers he put up that season
yeah.
going into last season, like after that last season finished. And I think age was gonna catch up to him. I think literally that's what happened with him this last season. And as a Madrid fan, you know he had quite a lot of injuries, which he sustained throughout different periods of the season. However, he was still vital. He was still amazing, and obviously he left as a Madrid legend, and now he's playing in Saudi. So yeah, hats off to him.
Yeah, I mean, just before we go into our top three and all that Ballon d'Or talk, I just want to ask you, do you think Benzema made a mistake by going to Saudi?
No, because I think he had the same like mindset or the same thinking process behind, for example, Andres Iniesta for Barcelona. He said that I will continue playing for Barcelona until I feel like I can't give my 100% like input into all the things that's going around the club, not just playing, but just in general staying at that top level. And he left at the perfect time. Like, I mean, when he left, we had one good season with Messi. We were about to go into the Champions League in Champions League final in 2019, and then it all went downhill. But with Benzema, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, he felt like he couldn't put as much energy as he did since Ronaldo left, because those 4 years since Ronaldo left, the amount of carrying that he did with that team and
Yeah.
uplifting was spectacular. And I think people let his 2 seasons after Ronaldo left go under the radar. He was amazing, and I think he was second top scorer in the league 2 years in a row behind Messi, maybe even three. So I think he chose the right time to leave, and yeah, he felt like he needed to let the new guard come in and the old guard. Yeah, it's time to leave. Yeah,
Yeah, all right, I understand that. Well, before we go into our top three, I think, and maybe he's in one of our top three, we'll see, but I think we need to talk about Kylian Mbappe for this Ballon d'Or.
yeah.
So I've got here that he played 43 games and made 51 goal contributions.
51. I have. Oh, you're way far off. He has 62 goal contributions last year.
Yeah, see, so that's what I mean
He
with the
had
stats,
50. He had
very skewed.
53 goals. He had 53 goals across all competitions, and 10 assists. I remember seeing the stat that him and Haaland were level on most goal contributions
Yeah, well, there
for
you go
last
then.
season.
So he's got even more than I've got on here. So this is what I want to get onto then. With so many goal contributions, Mbappe once again has decided to stay at PSG, perhaps playing a crucial part in his downfall for this Ballon d'Or and probably Ballon d'Ors to come. What is your opinion on Mbappe and his chances with the Ballon d'Or?
Yeah. Um, Look, like I said, he has 53 goals and 10 assists. That's 62 goal contributions across all competitions. That's level with Haaland. People are going to be surprised with that number. He was the World Cup top scorer. I think if the World Cup continued or even had something called the silver ball or the bronze ball, like the Club World Cup, I think he was the second best player probably at the World Cup. Um, he was tied for most goal contributions at the World Cup as well, and he had the biggest villain story ever, scoring a hat trick in that World Cup final as well. He was top scorer in the league. He won the league. He won the French Super Cup. I mean, he had spectacular performances, and he's one of those players where even if you don't have a goal contribution within that game, he can still provide quality and he can still provide effectiveness throughout the game. So I still think he's a shout for the Ballon d'Or, but not to win it. Like I won't be surprised if he's top three. But in my top three, which we will get into now in a bit, he's not in my top three. So maybe that's maybe that's controversial. I don't know.
Well, let's do it. Let's talk about our top three because for me, Kylian Mbappe is in my top three. He carried
Okay.
France on his He carried France on his shoulders. He carried PSG on his shoulders. So he carried the French club and his France national team on his shoulders with so many goal contributions, like you're saying, or goal contributions, like you said. He's been tremendous, and I think staying at PSG is unfortunately his downfall because it's stopping him from competing at the highest level in every single competition or doing well enough in every competition that he competes in with PSG for them to actually win it, for that to also count towards, his chances for a Ballon d'Or. Whether he makes it into as a top three, this year or not, I think he needs to worry more about his chances at the future Ballon d'Or, I
Yeah,
guess,
exactly.
ceremonies. With him pushing 26 years of age now, when he was, it feels like yesterday he was 22, 23, and we were talking about how many
Yeah.
Ballon d'Ors this guy could win. And he's still not got one to his name. And I feel a huge part of that is him being at PSG. So Mbappe, hopefully, whether he transfers and moves to a different club or whether PSG picks it up in terms of performances, hopefully he'll do better in the future. But Mbappe is in my top three alongside two players which I know are in your top three. They're in everyone's top three: Lionel Messi and Erling Haaland. Those are my
Yes.
top three. Give me your top three, and then we'll move on to debating who should win it this year.
So obviously everyone is having the same conversation about who can win it, and it's obviously between Erling Haaland and Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
But because my top three is a bit different, I have Rodri in third. I think he was absolutely spectacular for City last season. Extremely, we talk about how Gundogan is vital, how De Bruyne was vital. We talk about the defense was vital, but Rodri's presence in that Man City midfield is absolutely astonishing. And he doesn't remind me of Busquets, but it's like I know you're probably bored of hearing me say though he's a Busquets regen or something like that, but his presence in that midfield is extremely important and vital to how City play, how City progress forward, how City drop back, and how City kind of move the ball from one side of the pitch to the other. And obviously, he scored the winning goal in the Champions League final. He scored that belter of a goal against Bayern in the quarterfinals. And surprisingly, as a central defensive midfielder, he had 11 goal contributions. He had 7 assists and 4 goals, which I know is not going to compare to the likes of Messi and Haaland, Mbappe, etc. But for me, I think he should get some limelight, some of the spotlight, and that's why he's in my top three. However, like I said, I also told you this before we started recording, and I know I said Mbappe isn't in my top three, but my third place is actually a little bit interchangeable between Mbappe, Rodri, and Kevin De Bruyne. But I wouldn't be surprised if any of them take that top three. However, if you ask
Yeah.
myself, then yeah, I would have Rodri in third, Haaland in second, and Messi in first. So I guess we can talk about why we think our GOAT is going to
Well,
win his eighth.
at this point in the video, I think anyone watching or most people watching has probably gone, "What? Messi in first? What are you on about? What? How could you say that? Haaland got 52 goals this season. Oh my God, it's Haaland." Well,
Yeah.
Walid and I both think that Messi should win the Ballon d'Or. Obviously,
Hmm.
Messi, and I know Walid, as a Barca fan, you're very passionate about this and about Messi winning the Ballon d'Or and why you think he should. But to put that aside, and let's just state the obvious. Obviously, the World Cup has always, 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 and throughout the history of this kind of award, the World Cup has played a huge role. A huge role.
Massive,
A-
yes. You
Any
took the
super
point right out of my mouth.
any superstar who's considered anywhere near one of the best in the world, if they had won the World Cup, they were automatically bound for that Ballon d'Or. It's always been the
Yes.
pattern year after year
Yes.
when there was a World Cup present. And now Messi has won the World Cup. I don't care how many penalties people think were scored. I don't care how rigged people think it was. You cannot come and change your ways and change your own philosophy of the fact that the World Cup winner should likely get it just because it's Messi and
Yes.
because Haaland, who plays for an English team, for Manchester City, and they won a treble. I understand that. Tremendous. Absolutely tremendous from
Yeah.
Haaland and City. But you cannot change your own philosophy. You cannot become a hypocrite as a fan base, no matter a football fan base. You cannot. Messi was tremendous in the World Cup and throughout the season, which we'll get onto his
Yeah.
contributions and how well he did. I just don't understand this whole narrative of just because he won the World Cup and anyway it was mostly penalties. Like you can't pretend that the World Cup isn't the
Yeah.
most important,
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess, competition in the world. It
Exactly.
always has been. So
That's the point I
Messi,
was
that is
gonna
the
come
that is the
into.
first
Yeah.
point. Yeah, go on, talk about it.
Just the point about the World Cup and the philosophy of how people look at the World Cup, and especially in World Cup years and the Ballon d'Or for that World Cup year. Let's look back all the way to 1990, and I'm sure people have heard this statistic before. And before 1990, they didn't give the Ballon d'Or to players outside of Europe, so it was just mainly European players. But from 1990 onwards, it's when they started giving it to players across the globe. So in 1990, Germany had a fantastic World Cup. They won the World Cup. Who won the Ballon d'Or that year? Lothar Matthäus, iconic player, legend for Bayern Munich and Inter Milan. 1994, Stoichkov for his heroics in the World Cup with a team that shouldn't have reached that stage of the World Cup as well. So his heroics in the World Cup with a team of that caliber, he took them that far in the tournament to the point where it made him win the Ballon d'Or. In 1998, Zinedine Zidane with France, he scored 2 goals in the final. 2002, R9, phenomenal. He won the World Cup and the Ballon d'Or. He only scored 10 goals across the season. He still won the Ballon d'Or. Now, I'm not sure if it was 10, but it was not more than 15, I remember. 2006, Cannavaro. He had an extremely poor season in his club season. He won the World Cup. Ballon d'Or winner. 2010 and 2014 are the only exceptions with Messi and Ronaldo who won the World Cup, who did not win the World Cup but won the Ballon d'Or. But that was because their individual seasons were so good that it kind of overshadowed or overtaken the likes of Iniesta or Schneider or Ribéry in the 2014 World Cup from the Germany team like Ozil or
Yeah.
Philipp Lahm, Neuer, etc. And then we go on to 2018, obviously the most recent one. Luka Modric won his heroics for Croatia, and now 2022, Lionel Messi. Anyways, I think people get the idea now and where I was going. But Messi actually has the most goal contributions across all competitions. He has 63 goal contributions. That's one more than Mbappe and one more than Erling Haaland. That's 38 goals and 25 assists.
25
World Cup
assists, yeah.
player, 25 assists. World Cup player of the tournament. He won the World Cup. Silver boot in the World Cup. He won the league. Most assists in the league. The French Super Cup.
That's
And the
something.
FIFA
I'm sorry
best.
to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You're absolutely
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
But can we just talk about forget winning the World Cup? That's one thing, and that in itself is enough. By the way, the best player at the World Cup,
Yeah.
the best. He was
Twice
the
now. That's
best.
twice.
He was the best player in the world's most important football competition. Usually, if you're a superstar, you win that competition. Even if you don't win best player, you're probably likely to get the Ballon d'Or. He went on to win the best
Yeah.
player and like you said, so what, second top goal scorer in the competition. How has all that been dismissed? All that.
Exactly. That's my
And
point.
forget
That's my
and
point. That's
forget that,
exactly my
like
point.
you said, 38 goals, 25 assists, which is incredible numbers to put aside the World Cup. Incredible numbers. All that package has been dismissed for Haaland's 52 goals and a
Yeah.
treble, where this is the point I want to get onto now. He's an absolute no-show in big games. No show.
Exactly.
He did nothing in most of their Champions League campaign. Literally not present, especially in the FA Cup final, the quarterfinals, and the Champions League. He
Yeah.
was not
No, no,
present
no.
in the
So it
game.
was basically all semifinals and finals he played that season. He did not
Yeah,
contribute a single thing. And it's not
there you go.
looking at this objectively, what me and
Yeah,
Hamad are trying to say is that we don't judge players by their statistics. We're giving you the statistics that we talk about right now are just an add-on to the player and how good he is. If it were up to us, I wouldn't have these statistics in front of me to talk about how good Lionel Messi was last season. I don't need these statistics to tell you how good he was. I don't need the amount of goals he scores or the amount of assists. His performances alone should tell you that that is the player who should win the Ballon d'Or for the eighth time. For Erling Haaland, he did not play well at all in every semi-final and final last season. And not because he did not score a goal or provide an assist. It's because his performance overall, his energy and his output, both his input and output within that game was completely horrendous. It was very, very poor. Very, very poor. And people will continue to say, okay, but he played that way to accommodate the way the team was playing. They brought Haaland for the sake of scoring goals in those games. You know? Yes, he did his job in the round 16 and the quarterfinals. As a striker and what your job is in those games and the chances he missed in those games were crucial. And yes, I know it didn't really matter in the end because they ended up winning the treble. But if we look at performances, those really hinder his pole position in winning his first Ballon d'Or, which is why we come to the point again that Lionel Messi is going to win and will win his eighth Ballon d'Or, because even if he does not provide a goal contribution within a game, and we've spoken about this across his entire season, his entire career, this player, this man does not need a goal or an assist to his name in a game to showcase that he was and is going to continue being the best player on that pitch. And in the World Cup, if you take away every goal he scored and you just want to give assists, that alone would have won him the player of the tournament. Okay? So that's our top three. I don't know if you want to add anything else to the Lionel Messi and Haaland race, but that's pretty much it.
Look, I think we're going to get a lot of people saying, how can you dismiss Haaland's performances and his statistics and how well he did this season? And how can you
That's not what we're
dismiss
doing. That's not what we're doing
yeah,
here.
and they're gonna say, how can you dismiss his chances of winning the Ballon d'Or? And it's like, people need to understand, we are not doing that. Haaland had an
Yeah.
incredible season, 52 goals, a treble winning side which he was part of and made a huge contribution to. Incredible. But the point stands. Every single time there was a World Cup, very likely that a finalist in the World Cup, or usually the winner of the World Cup, would get the Ballon d'Or because it is the most important competition in the sport. And everyone has always had the same belief throughout time. You cannot change your philosophy of how heavily the World Cup would weigh in a Ballon d'Or ceremony just because it's Lionel Messi versus Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
Messi with 38 goals this season and 25 assists. So that's a lot of contributions. Like you said, 63 contributions, right? The most this season of anyone. His World Cup performances were tremendous. Winning the best player at the World Cup, that alone is just incredible. It's the biggest competition, and he was the best in that competition and won it for Argentina. And despite the PSG team being poor at certain times, he was incredible. He showed his presence in that team. Haaland was tremendous, but Haaland, as it's known for everyone, City plays as a unit. Guardiola's system allows City to play as a unit. Without De Bruyne's 30 or 31 assists, however many it was, Holland's numbers would have been very different. And for anyone who wants to
Yeah.
argue against that, of course, his positioning is incredible to actually find the ball from De Bruyne, etc., and finish. Yes, but ultimately, when it came to the big games, every semi-final, every final he played, he made zero contributions. So when you look
Mhm.
at the overall performances across the season, Messi deserves his eighth Ballon d'Or. Yes, probably his last one, so he should win it and he should relish in such an incredible career. And Holland, I'm sure, in years to come, is going to get one to his name, if not more than one.
Of course.
But but
He's
this
on
year,
he's on track to win next. He's probably on track to win next year's one. So
yeah,
I don't see it as an issue. And if people
no,
really want to talk about, okay, why didn't you talk about Haaland's statistics, or why didn't you talk about Haaland? Okay, Haaland won the Premier League, the FA Cup, the Champions League. He was the top scorer in the Champions League, top scorer in the Premier League. He won Premier League Young Player of the Season, the Premier League Player of the Season. He won the what was the PFA Player of the Year. So he still had a spectacular season.
yeah.
We are not downplaying his season, but Messi is just going to overcome one last time, win his eighth, finish his career off in the most fashionable way, even more so than in the World Cup. Imagine finishing your career as winning the World Cup, and now you're going to finish your career by winning your eighth Ballon d'Or. So, yeah, I can't wait till October 30th.
October 30th, ladies and gentlemen, my birthday. And what a better present than to see Messi lift his eighth Ballon d'Or. I am so excited. Walid is even more excited. And I'm sorry to all the Haaland fans or the people who think Haaland should win it. You're going to have to just face the reality of football, because when it comes down to it, the facts
Exactly.
always outweigh people's
It's
opinions.
not just a 7 game tournament, please. For the love of God, I don't
Yeah,
understand where this came from. What do you mean 7 game tournament?
because
Anyways,
before that 7 game tournament propelled Messi to be a Ballon d'Or favorite, you all thought it was the biggest tournament there is. So don't
yeah.
change your ways now, because it has
Hmm.
allowed Messi his opportunity to get the eighth. That's it from me and Walid, I believe.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
been a great episode, and I hope we've clarified why Messi is the GOAT once again. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. We are excited for the Ballon d'Or. Make sure you don't miss it, October 30th. If you are too busy to watch the episode, you can always listen on Spotify, link down below. Episodes are coming out weekly, so stay tuned as always. Walid, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next
Thank
time.
you.
Take care.